Have you ever wondered why Germany lost the war in 1945? A crucial reason lies in the powerful alliance that stood against it. Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, found itself pitted against a formidable coalition. This coalition was composed of none other than the Soviet Union, the United States, the United Kingdom, and various other allies. This global alliance was not a random assembly of nations. It was a carefully orchestrated response to the threat posed by Nazi Germany. Each member had a role to play, and their combined efforts spanned across several fronts. The unity of this alliance was a testament to the common cause they were fighting for: the defeat of Hitler's Germany. The Soviet Union, a titan in its own right, was a vital part of this coalition. The Red Army's fierce resistance and relentless push from the east played a significant role in wearing down the German forces. The United States, on the other hand, provided not only military support but also critical resources to its allies, bolstering their capacity to fight. The United Kingdom, despite the onslaught of the Blitz, maintained its resolve. It served as a launchpad for operations into continental Europe, notably the D-Day invasion, which marked a turning point in the war. And let's not forget the numerous other allies, each contributing in their own way to the war effort, whether through troops, resources, or strategic positioning. These forces, working in unison, presented a united front against Nazi Germany. They fought on land, in the sky, and on the sea, relentlessly pushing back against Hitler's expansionist ambitions. Each front was a cog in a larger machine, a machine that was slowly but surely grinding down the Nazi war machine. This powerful alliance did not just happen. It was a product of diplomatic efforts, shared interests, and a common understanding of what was at stake. It was a testament to the power of unity in the face of a common enemy. A united front against a common enemy can be a formidable force. This was certainly the case for Germany, which was up against a global alliance. What happens when you bite off more than you can chew? This question might have haunted Adolf Hitler, the German leader, when his grand plan to invade the Soviet Union in 1941 took a turn for the worse. The invasion, known as Operation Barbarossa, was seen as a strategic mistake that would cost Germany heavily. The Soviet Union, under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, was not an easy adversary. The Red Army, though initially taken by surprise, quickly regrouped and put up a fierce resistance. The German forces, used to quick victories, were unprepared for the tenacity of the Red Army. The Soviet soldiers fought relentlessly, defending their motherland with a fervor that was underestimated by the Germans. Moreover, the harsh Russian winter proved to be a formidable foe. The German troops, ill-equipped for the sub-zero temperatures, suffered greatly. The cold crippled their machinery and froze their supplies, slowing their advance and leaving them vulnerable. The combination of the Red Army's resilience and the brutal Russian climate proved too much for the German forces. The once unstoppable Wehrmacht was eventually pushed back, marking a significant setback for the Nazis. The failed invasion not only drained Germany's resources but also shattered the illusion of invincibility that had surrounded the German military. Germany's failed invasion of the Soviet Union marked a turning point in the war. It cost them dearly in terms of resources and morale. When did the tide really turn against Germany, you might ask? The answer lies in the early hours of a summer day in June 1944, with the launch of one of the most significant military operations in history, the Normandy landings. Commonly known as D-Day, this was an all-out attack from the sea, a daring gambit by the Allies to gain a foothold in Nazi-occupied Western Europe. Thousands of ships crossed the English Channel, carrying over 100,000 troops from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and other Allied nations. Their destination? The beaches of Normandy in northern France. The battle was brutal, the conditions harsh. The beaches became a canvas of chaos and courage, painted with the grit and determination of the Allied forces. They faced formidable German defenses, yet they persevered, pushing forward inch by bloody inch. This audacious operation marked a significant turning point in the Second World War. It was the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany in Western Europe. After the successful establishment of a beachhead in Normandy, the Allied forces were able to push further into Europe, liberating cities and countries one by one from the oppressive grip of the Nazis. So when we ask, when did the tide really turn against Germany? We look to the shores of Normandy. The Normandy landings were a pivotal moment in the war, signaling the start of Germany's downfall. What happens when a war machine runs out of fuel? In the case of Nazi Germany, the depletion of resources played a critical role in shaping the outcome of World War II. As the war went on, Germany found its reserves dwindling. The human cost was immense, with millions of German soldiers and civilians losing their lives. The material and economic resources were also strained to the breaking point. The German war machine was a behemoth that required an enormous amount of resources to keep going. From the tanks that roared across the battlefields to the aircraft that dominated the skies, every part of this machine needed fuel, ammunition, and spare parts. Yet, as the war dragged on, these resources became increasingly scarce. The factories that produced these war materials were in ruins, the workforce was depleted, and the economy was on the brink of collapse. And let's not forget the massive damage inflicted by Allied bombings on German infrastructure. The bombing campaigns carried out by the Allies were relentless and devastating. They targeted railroads, bridges, and factories, the very backbone of Germany's war efforts. These attacks not only destroyed the physical infrastructure but also disrupted supply chains and crippled Germany's ability to produce and transport goods. The situation was further exacerbated by the fact that Germany was fighting on multiple fronts. The Eastern Front against the Soviet Union and the Western Front against the Allies required vast amounts of resources that Germany simply did not have. The pressure of maintaining these multiple fronts stretched Germany's resources thin and further hastened its decline. In essence, the depletion of resources led to a slow but sure unraveling of the German war machine. Despite its initial success and dominance, Germany found itself in a position where it could no longer sustain its military efforts. The shortage of resources, coupled with the relentless pressure from the Allies, ultimately led to the breakdown of the German war effort. Without the necessary resources, even the most powerful war machine can grind to a halt. How does fighting on two fronts affect a nation's war efforts? This is a question that the leaders of Nazi Germany had to grapple with during the Second World War. The Eastern Front, against the Soviet Union, was a grueling and relentless battlefield. In the east, the German forces faced the indomitable Red Army, which fought fiercely for their homeland. They also had to contend with the harsh Russian winter, which proved to be a formidable foe in its own right. But the Eastern Front was only half of the story. To the west, another front was opening up against the Allies. As Germany was stretched thin, it had to juggle its resources and manpower between these two major fronts. This two-front war put a severe strain on Germany's military resources and created a logistical nightmare. But the threats to Nazi Germany were not just external. Internally, there was a growing tide of resistance and discontent. Some of the German populace, disillusioned by the war and the atrocities committed by their leaders, began to rebel. There were plots to overthrow Hitler, and the regime was riddled with dissent and treachery. This internal strife added another layer of complexity to Germany's already precarious situation. The internal resistance was not just limited to covert plots and rebellions, it also took the form of passive resistance. Some people deliberately slowed down their work in factories, others spread anti-Nazi literature, while some even sabotaged military equipment. These acts of defiance, although small in isolation, collectively made a significant impact. In the end, the combination of fighting on two fronts and dealing with internal resistance proved to be too much for Nazi Germany. The military was overstretched, morale was low, and there was a growing sense of impending doom. The nation was buckling under the weight of its own ambitions and the relentless pressure from both within and outside its borders. The combination of external pressures and internal strife was a recipe for disaster for Nazi Germany. Can a single decision change the course of a war? This question brings us to the strategic errors made by the Nazi regime. These mistakes, often controversial military decisions, played a crucial role in weakening Germany's position over time. For instance, Hitler's decision to invade the Soviet Union, breaking the non-aggression pact, was seen as a significant tactical error. It opened a second front and stretched the German military thin. Another blunder was the delay of Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. This delay led the German troops to fight in the harsh Russian winter, a condition they were ill-prepared for, and we cannot overlook the strategic mistake of underestimating the Allies' ability to fight and resist. Hitler failed to anticipate the unity and determination of the Allied forces, leading to critical defeats. Strategic errors can have long-lasting consequences. For Nazi Germany, these mistakes were a significant factor in their defeat. When did the war finally end for Germany? The final chapter of this destructive saga came on the 7th of May, 1945. That's when Nazi Germany, crippled by a potent mix of internal and external pressures, finally capitulated. The once formidable war machine lay in ruins, its ambitions of world domination shattered. And so, a series of monumental factors led to the fall of Nazi Germany, ending World War II in Europe. A powerful lesson in the perils of overreach, strategic blunders, and the power of global alliances.